me tell you about a moment that changed everything about a woman named Rebecca Chen who walked into a trap designed specifically to destroy her, and then she turned around and destroyed everyone who built it. I need you to understand something before we start. This story isn't about what you think it's about. It's not a revenge narrative. It's about what happens when someone finally stops being willing to accept the role that their family wrote for them. Rebecca didn't set out to take anyone down. She just decided she wasn't going to let them take her down anymore. Let's start in the exact moment everything went wrong, or at least, the moment Rebecca's family thought everything went right. She's standing on the manicured lawn of an 8,000-square-foot home in Houston's West University neighborhood on a Saturday afternoon in June. The humidity is crushing, the kind of Texas heat that makes expensive clothes stick to expensive skin. Her brother-in-law Marcus, 6'3", 245 pounds of muscle, wrapped in designer gym wear, is standing by a professional outdoor kitchen, surrounded by the kind of men you see in fitness magazines. His gym chain, Apex Performance, just opened its 7th location. Tonight is the grand opening celebration. This afternoon is the power display, the moment where Marcus reminds everyone in his orbit that he's won. Rebecca's wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans. She looks tired. That matters, because it's the detail that makes her invisible to everyone watching her, and invisibility is going to save her life in ways she doesn't understand yet. Her daughter, sweet, anxious 7-year-old named Iris, is holding her hand. Iris has been clingy since Rebecca's husband, Detective David, was killed in the line of duty 6 months ago. Iris still has nightmares about that phone call. She still checks the driveway when they get home, like maybe if she worries hard enough, her father will materialize. Everything shifts when Marcus's German Shepherd, one of those massive animals with a jaw like a bear trap, lunges from the open patio toward Iris. The dog doesn't have a leash. The dog doesn't have any restraint at all. It's a $4,000 animal trained to attack. But Marcus lets it run free through his yard like it's a golden retriever. The dog's teeth are bared. Its eyes are locked on Iris. The sound it makes, a sound that isn't quite a bark, something deeper, something that comes from the animal's chest, is the sound of something that has been trained to hurt things. Rebecca doesn't think. She steps between her daughter and the dog, dropping her center of gravity the way you only do if your body has spent years learning how to move under pressure. She's ready to hurt that animal. That matters, because it's the first visual clue that Rebecca Chen is not who her family thinks she is. Marcus laughs. The sound comes out booming, the kind of laugh that's supposed to assert dominance, supposed to make everyone around him smaller. He walks over to his gym bag, pulls out his fighting gloves, the kind that smell like old sweat and leather and something chemical, and hurls them at Rebecca's chest. They hit her with a thud. They fall to the grass. "You're so pathetic, Rebecca," he says. His voice carries across the yard, making sure everyone hears. Everyone does. Rebecca's mother, a woman named Catherine, wearing a Chanel cover-up over a designer swimsuit, doesn't even look up from her phone. Rebecca's sister, Veronica, married to Marcus for 8 years, smirks like she's about to watch her favorite show. I have to stop here and be honest with you about something. I know what the next part of this story is. I know that Rebecca is about to accept a challenge. She appears to have no chance of winning. And I watched this entire sequence unfold, and something struck me that I want to say to you directly. The people who underestimate you most viciously are often the people who should know better. They should know you. They should have seen you grow into your strength. But they're so invested in the version of you that makes them comfortable, the smaller version, the sadder version, that they actively resist seeing anything else. That's what was happening in Rebecca's yard that afternoon. Marcus is grinning now. He steps closer, crowding her personal space with his body, using his size like a weapon. "How about this?" he says. "Tonight is my gym's grand opening. Exhibition fights in the octagon. I want you to step into the cage with me. Just 1 minute. If you survive without tapping out, I'll leash the dog. I'll never bother you again." Veronica claps her hands. She actually applauds this like it's the funniest thing she's ever heard. But then Marcus leans down until his face is inches from Rebecca's. His jaw tightens, his voice drops. "But when you lose, and you will lose, you're signing your dead husband's $200,000 life insurance policy over to me. I need that capital for my business expansion, and you're too fragile to handle that money anyway." He spits on the grass next to Rebecca's boots. Tactical boots, she realizes she's wearing. She didn't even think about it. She dressed for a family barbecue, and somehow ended up wearing combat footwear. Marcus doesn't notice, because he's too busy being certain of his own victory. Pick up the gloves, Rebecca, or I swear I'm coming to the hospital tomorrow. I'll break your arm right here, right in front of your crying daughter. No one's going to stop me. Rebecca picks up the gloves. She doesn't shake. She doesn't break eye contact. She accepts the challenge in a voice so calm it barely registers as defiance. She says she'll see him at 8 p.m. at the gym opening. The yard explodes in laughter. What Rebecca understands in that moment, what everyone else in that yard can't see, is that Marcus just made a catastrophic mistake. He threatened her daughter. He did it in front of witnesses. He documented his own intent in the presence of people who he assumed would remain loyal to him. He had no idea he was about to hand the federal government exactly what they needed. 3 hours later, Rebecca is sitting in her home office. The door is locked. The windows are sealed with blackout shades. The room looks like the workspace of someone shuffling paperwork for a mid-level government agency. Generic filing cabinets. A Dell laptop. Office supplies in a recycled container. She walks to the desk, opens the bottom drawer, and presses a concealed biometric button. A hidden compartment clicks open. She pulls out a device that looks like it belongs in a spy film. Matte black, heavy, encrypted. She opens it. Biometric scanner. Retinal sweep. Top secret security clearance flashes across the screen. The United States Army Special Operations Command Network materializes on her display. What Rebecca's family believes, what the entire neighborhood believes, is that she pushed paperwork for the Department of Defense, filed expense reports, scheduled meetings. What they don't know is that Rebecca Chen spent the last decade neutralizing high-value targets in hostile territories, that she transitioned into financial crimes operations, that for the last 6 months, she's been running a covert financial tracking algorithm right from this desk, hunting down the exact pattern of money laundering that she's about to find. It takes her 40 minutes to locate the information. She finds millions of dollars flowing through Marcus's gym chain not from legitimate fitness memberships, but from narcotics trafficking operations spanning the entire eastern seaboard, premium package deals disguising cash deposits, personal training consultations that are actually money handoffs. She digs deeper into the corporate structure, and then she finds something that makes her chest go tight. 3 months ago, Marcus stole $200,000 from his cartel handlers. Clean money. His own embezzlement. He used those funds to buy Veronica a sports car, to cover construction costs on a new gym location, to maintain the appearance of unlimited wealth. The cartel noticed. They always notice. The intercept files on her screen are crystal clear. Marcus has until tonight to replace those stolen funds with clean money, or he will be executed. Not imprisoned, not demoted, executed. Rebecca sits back in her chair. She understands now. This wasn't about her brother-in-law being a greedy bully. He's a desperate man with a gun to his head, and he saw his sister-in-law's life insurance as a lifeboat. He was going to beat her unconscious, force her to sign a check, and hand that money directly to people who would kill him if he disappointed them again. He was going to save his life by destroying hers, by stealing his niece's future. And here's what Rebecca understands that her family doesn't. General Thompson, her commanding officer, has already assembled everything they need for a federal takedown. The warrants are signed. The tactical teams are briefed. All they've been waiting for is confirmation that the cartel leadership will be in a single location at a single moment. They're coming to the gym tonight whether Rebecca participates or not. But if she walks into that cage, if she keeps everyone's eyes focused on her and Marcus, the cartel bosses sitting in the VIP section will be completely distracted when the federal agents breach the building. Rebecca makes a call on her encrypted satellite phone. General Thompson picks up on the second ring. His voice is gravelly, professional. She tells him, "Position the tactical teams outside the perimeter. Establish a hard containment around the entire city block. But wait for her signal." She's going to step into the cage. She's going to keep everyone looking at her. The second the opening bell rings, she'll trigger the raid, Thompson confirms. He understands. He's spent 15 years working with Rebecca, and he knows exactly what she's capable of. What happens next is Rebecca preparing for war. She leaves Iris with Mrs. Chen, not her biological family, but a retired trauma nurse who has become her daughter's safety net since David died, and then she goes home, and she opens her storage trunk. She pulls out tactical combat pants, a moisture-wicking compression shirt, reinforced tactical boots. She ties her hair back so tight it's almost painful. And then she reaches into a hidden compartment and pulls out a small device, a high-frequency tactical whistle, the kind that pierces through arena noise. It's the signal that will unleash federal agents to breach the gym. It's the switch that will change everything. When Rebecca arrives at Apex Performance, the parking lot is already overflowing. Expensive cars everywhere. She sees license plates from the financial crimes database cartel operatives who flew in specifically for tonight. She bypasses the main entrance and uses her staff credentials to enter through the side door. Two massive security guards flanking the entrance don't even blink as she passes. Inside, the main arena is packed. Hundreds of people waiting to watch what they think will be a professional slaughter. A small woman getting destroyed by a former heavyweight champion. The octagon sits in the center of the room, black chain-link fence gleaming under harsh spotlights. Rebecca keeps her breathing steady, her heart rate calm. She maps the room exits, security positions, structural columns that could provide cover during a breach. Her tactical training activates without her even thinking about it. Her brain is already running scenarios, calculating angles, assessing threats. She's not here to fight Marcus. She's here to be the distraction that keeps everyone else in the building calm, while federal agents move into position. But then Veronica intercepts her, in a dimly lit corridor. She's holding a wooden clipboard, and blocking the hallway with two of Marcus's gym trainers flanking her. Well, well, Veronica says, looking Rebecca up and down with absolute disdain. Playing soldier tonight? She shoves the clipboard at Rebecca's chest. It's a liability waiver, 5 pages of dense legal language. Rebecca scans it quickly, but then she sees it buried on page 3, hidden in the boilerplate text. A clause stating that if Rebecca suffers incapacitation or loss of consciousness during the fight, she voluntarily surrenders power of attorney to Veronica, all of her financial accounts. Mark's life insurance. The words that follow make Rebecca's blood freeze. Emergency guardianship clause. If Rebecca is hospitalized, Veronica gets immediate temporary custody of Iris. They didn't just plan to beat Rebecca unconscious and steal her money. They planned to kidnap her daughter while she was bleeding in a hospital bed. Rebecca doesn't show emotion. She's been trained to compartmentalize rage. She forces her breathing to become shallow. She makes her hands shake. She performs the exact psychological breakdown her family expects from her. She tells them she'll sign. She signs the fraudulent document with shaky handwriting. She watches Veronica's face light up with triumph as she realizes she's won. Then Catherine appears, Rebecca's mother, wearing diamond jewelry bought entirely with cartel money, looking at her daughter with the specific cruelty of someone who has spent 34 years breaking that daughter down. Catherine grabs Rebecca's arm and pulls her into an empty locker room. Veronica locks the door behind them. What happens in that room is Catherine attempting one final psychological devastation. She threatens to call Child Protective Services. She threatens to have Iris taken away. She tells Rebecca that she's mentally unstable, that she's a bad mother, that she deserves to lose everything. And then she does something that makes Rebecca's carefully maintained facade crack for just a second. Catherine smiles. She's enjoying this. She's enjoying the power of threatening to destroy her daughter's life. That smile, that genuine pleasure in her child's suffering, is the moment Rebecca knows her mother is not a person she needs to protect anymore. Rebecca plays along. She performs terror. She agrees to everything. She tells them she'll let Dion win, that she'll lose deliberately, that she'll sign whatever they want her to sign. She watches Veronica sip champagne, while her mother congratulates herself on winning. They have no idea that every word they've spoken in this room has been recorded by federal surveillance, that every threat they've made is already being prepared as evidence for prosecution, that the documents they've coerced Rebecca to sign are going to be used to prove conspiracy and extortion. Rebecca walks toward the arena. The noise hits her first, the bass of the arena sound system, the screaming of hundreds of people, the electric anticipation of a crowd that has gathered to watch a spectacle. She can feel the energy in the room, the hunger for blood. She can see Veronica in the front row, phone held up, broadcasting this live on social media to thousands of followers who don't know what they're about to witness. The announcer's voice booms through the speakers. First, he introduces Marcus: pyrotechnics, music, the full theatrical treatment. He marches to the cage surrounded by trainers and security. He looks like a juggernaut. Then the announcer calls Rebecca. No music, no pyrotechnics. Just a simple introduction of an amateur fighter making her debut. Rebecca walks out of the darkness into the arena lights. She's wearing tactical combat pants and a compression shirt. She's not bouncing. She's not performing. She's walking with the slow, measured precision of someone who has trained for this exact moment for years. The arena goes quiet. Then it erupts not in cheers, but in laughter. People point. They mock. Someone throws a plastic cup. The woman in the front rows giggle. Veronica is recording it, vibrating with excitement at what she believes is about to unfold. Rebecca steps into the cage. The metal door slams shut behind her with a sound, like a prison cell ceiling. Marcus is in the opposite corner, bouncing on his toes, slapping his thighs, psyching himself up. He looks across the cage at Rebecca and drags his thumb across his throat. A universal threat. Rebecca simply stands in her corner, arms loose at her sides. She's not performing. She's not trying to intimidate. She's just waiting. The referee brings them to center cage. He's obviously been paid off. He whispers something to Marcus with a complicit nod. But then he leans down to Rebecca and whispers, "I know what's going on. I'm not stopping this fight until he tells me to. You're finished before you start." Rebecca doesn't respond. She just files away the information. The referee steps back. The overhead lights beat down, generating heat. The crowd is a feral blur of faces and raised fists. The electronic horn blares. The fight has officially begun. Marcus explodes forward instantly. He's not cautious. He's not tactical. He charges like a runaway freight train, his massive frame casting a shadow over Rebecca's body. His intent is absolutely clear. He's going for a devastating overhand right, a knockout punch, the kind of strike designed to end fights in seconds. He puts his entire 245-pound frame behind it. He winds his arm back to deliver maximum force. It's a punch that should easily shatter the skull of an untrained civilian. And I need you to understand something about what happens next. When a highly trained operative faces a lethal threat, their brain shifts into hyperdrive. The external world appears to move in slow motion. Rebecca experiences this. Now the sound of Marcus's boots thundering against the mat, the anticipation of the crowd, everything stretching. She sees exactly how he's telegraphing his massive overhand right. She sees his left shoulder dip forward. She sees him abandon all defensive posture. She watches him transfer all his weight to his back foot. He's not fighting a trained combatant. He's fighting a phantom version of her that exists only in his head. A grieving widow, a desk worker, someone defenseless. Rebecca doesn't retreat. She drops her hips, lowering her center of gravity. She shifts her body weight entirely to her left leg and plants her boots firmly. The massive punch tears through the empty space where her head was a fraction of a second prior. Marcus's momentum carries him forward, and he stumbles. He's off balance. He's panicked. The arena goes completely silent. The transition from a frenzied screaming crowd to absolute stunned silence is instantaneous. Hundreds of people stand frozen, holding their breath, trying to process what they just witnessed. Marcus threw a knockout punch at someone who didn't get hit. In the front row, Veronica's triumphant smirk vanishes. She lowers her smartphone. Her hand is visibly shaking. She can't process what she's seeing. Next to her, Catherine lowers her cocktail. The ice clinks against the glass in the sudden quiet. Marcus scrambles to recover. He's furious now. He throws a wild left hook, desperate to regain control of the narrative. He wants to prove to everyone watching, especially the cartel bosses sitting in the VIP section, that he's still the alpha predator. But Rebecca has already moved. She steps directly into his guard, flowing so smoothly across the canvas that she appears to glide. She enters his space, eliminating the reach advantage his long arms provide. As his left arm swings, she brings her right forearm up in a sharp intercepting block, deflecting the strike away from her center mass. Her left hand shoots out like a striking viper. Her fingers clamp down like a steel vise around his thick wrist. The moment her grip locks, a jolt of pure, primal panic flares in Marcus's eyes. He tries to yank his arm back, relying on his massive strength. He expects to easily overcome someone he thought was weak. Instead, he's met with the bone-crushing grip of an operative who has scaled walls under fire and dragged wounded soldiers out of active combat zones. His grip doesn't yield 1 millimeter. Rebecca squeezes, finding the exact pressure points between his bones and tendons. He gasps in pain. His fingers go numb. She pulls his trapped arm sharply downward and across her body, utilizing his own desperate pulling motion to further unbalance him. His heavy frame lurches forward, exposing his neck and the vulnerable joint of his shoulder. She steps in closer until her chest is nearly pressed against his side. She's completely controlling his center of gravity. She can feel the rapid, panicked thumping of his heart radiating through his sweat-soaked skin. She leans her head forward until her lips are positioned inches from his ear. The arena is so incredibly silent that her voice doesn't need to be loud. It only needs to be clear. "You're too slow, Marcus," she whispers. Her tone is stripped of all emotion, dripping with cold, lethal certainty. She feels a violent shudder ripple through his massive frame as the terrifying reality of his situation finally crashes down on him. He's not looking at a fragile, grieving widow anymore. He's staring directly into the eyes of his own absolute destruction. Marcus tries to yank his trapped wrist backward, using all the brute strength he possesses. It's a natural panic response, but it's exactly what Rebecca needs him to do. In close quarters combat, you never fight against your opponent's momentum. You weaponize it. As he pulls violently backward, she steps deep into his guard, hooking her right foot behind his left ankle to trap his base. She maintains her vice-like grip on his wrist and drives her forearm sharply against the back of his elbow joint. She twists her hips, dropping her weight, executing a perfectly military submission hold. She's locking his entire shoulder capsule into an unnatural and completely inescapable angle. Marcus lets out a strangled gasp as the pressure mounts. Rebecca applies a short, calculated burst of downward kinetic force. A loud, sickening crack echoes through the deathly quiet arena. It sounds like a thick, dry branch snapping perfectly in half. Immediately followed by a noise nobody in this building has ever heard. The agonized scream of a grown man, high-pitched and desperate, tearing from the very bottom of his lungs. Marcus throws his head back and releases a sound that reverberates off the metal walls. His massive muscular legs give out. 245 pounds of pure muscle crashes down onto the canvas. His knees hit the mat. He cannot stand. He cannot fight back. The pain of a fully dislocated shoulder has completely paralyzed his entire nervous system. He kneels in front of Rebecca, a broken and defeated man weeping loudly in front of his entire gym, in front of his criminal investors, in front of the family members who have been underestimating this woman her entire life. The crowd remains entirely paralyzed. The people who were screaming for Rebecca's destruction just 30 seconds ago are standing frozen, holding their breath, trying to comprehend what they just witnessed. The toxic screams of Veronica are audible from the front row. She's pointing at Rebecca, yelling that she cheated, that she has a weapon, that this is impossible. Catherine has lowered her cocktail, and her carefully constructed facade of superiority is completely crumbling. High above in the VIP balcony, the 5 cartel lieutenants stand up from their leather seats. They're no longer relaxed. They're realizing that their money laundering front is currently kneeling on the mat, crying in absolute agony. Rebecca looks up at the giant digital timer glowing red above the cage center. Exactly 14 seconds have elapsed since the opening bell rang. But the fight isn't truly over. Dion, desperate and humiliated, forces himself up on one knee. The pain must be blinding, but the terror of disappointing the cartel bosses is pushing him beyond his physical limits. He lunges forward clumsily, throwing a wide, looping hook with his good left arm. It's completely devoid of technique or discipline. Just raw desperation. He's swinging for the fences, hoping to land a lucky strike that will salvage his shattered ego. Rebecca doesn't even shift her stance. She steps slightly to the inside, letting his massive arm sail harmlessly past her head. The force of his own desperate swing pulls him forward, causing him to overextend completely. He leaves his entire left flank exposed. Rebecca shifts her weight to her right foot, raises her left knee, and drives it forward with the force of a steel battering ram. The point of her knee connects with pinpoint military precision, striking the exact location of his common peroneal nerve on the outside of his left thigh. It's the dead leg strike, the physical equivalent of pulling a circuit breaker. His leg instantly dies beneath him. The limb completely buckles, unable to support even a fraction of his frame. He crashes face first onto the canvas. He doesn't have the reflexes to brace his fall. His face bounces off the spongy floor, leaving a smear of sweat and saliva. Rebecca doesn't hesitate. She steps over his collapsed body, dropping down and driving her right knee squarely into the back of his thick neck. She applies precise, calculated pressure, pinning his face entirely flat against the floor. With her left hand, She grabs his uninjured left wrist and wrenches it up behind his back, locking him into a secure military compliance hold. He's completely immobilized. 14 seconds. The entire spectacle of Marcus Chen's invulnerability has been completely dismantled in 14 seconds. Rebecca reaches slowly into the zippered cargo pocket on her right thigh. Veronica gasps, probably expecting a knife or a gun. Instead, Rebecca pulls out something small, a matte black tactical whistle. She brings it to her lips. She takes a deep, controlled breath. She blows a single, long, piercing blast. The high-frequency sound slices through the warehouse entirely, cutting through all remaining noise of the crowd. For 2 heartbeats, absolutely nothing happens. Then the world outside the octagon explodes. The massive reinforced metal doors at the main entrance are blown completely off their heavy industrial hinges. The deafening roar of breaching charges shakes the entire foundation of the building. A thick cloud of gray smoke and pulverized concrete billows into the entryway. Before it can even begin to clear, the space is flooded with heavily armed men in full tactical gear. Federal agents, nobody move. A commanding shout echoes through bullhorns. Dozens of FBI agents and SWAT team members swarm into the warehouse from every possible access point. They pour through the main entrance, the rear loading docks, the emergency fire escapes. Red laser sights cut through the dusty air, sweeping across the terrified crowd in terrifying, erratic patterns. Flashlights mounted on assault rifles illuminate every corner. The panic is instantaneous and absolute. Gym members, local thugs, and casual spectators scream in terror. They drop to the floor and cover their heads. Some try to scramble toward the exits, but they're immediately met by a wall of Kevlar and ballistic shields. The perimeter is entirely locked down. Nobody is getting out. In the VIP balcony, the 5 cartel lieutenants have already drawn their concealed weapons. But before they can even aim, the glass partitions behind them shatter inward. A specialized strike team has rappelled down from the roof skylights directly into the VIP section. I watched this moment in real-time briefing footage. The cartel bosses tackled to the ground, disarmed, zip-tied in seconds. The threat they pose to the civilian crowd is neutralized before they can fire a single shot. Veronica lets out a blood-curdling shriek as 2 heavily armored FBI agents grab her by the arms and shove her face down onto the announcer's table just outside the cage. She struggles wildly, her expensive dress riding up, her hands being forced behind her back. "What are you doing?" she screams. Her voice cracks with pure hysteria. An agent ignores her entirely, expertly slapping heavy metal handcuffs around her wrists. Another agent seizes her designer purse, immediately bagging it as evidence. Inside that purse is the clipboard with the fraudulent power of attorney and emergency guardianship documents she forced Rebecca to sign. It's physical proof of federal extortion. Inside the octagon, the cage door is violently kicked open. 3 agents rush in. Their weapons are trained on the mat, but they're not pointing rifles at Rebecca. They're aiming directly at Marcus. "Dion Williams," the lead agent shouts. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, and racketeering." Rebecca steps back, lifting her knee off Marcus's neck. She allows the agents to take over. They haul his massive weeping frame off the canvas. He screams again as they force his arms behind his back, carelessly maneuvering his dislocated shoulder to secure handcuffs. The gym bully, who threatened to put Rebecca in the hospital, is now crying like a child, his face smeared with his own blood, completely broken by the reality of his situation. Rebecca stands near the edge of the cage, watching the federal raid unfold with clinical detachment. The noise, the screaming, the flashing lights, it's a familiar operational environment. The trap is sprung flawlessly. The targets are secured. I want to pause here and be honest about something. In this moment, Rebecca is experiencing absolute justice. Not vengeance, not cruelty. Justice. The cartel bosses who funded her family's lavish lifestyle through drug trafficking are being arrested. The brother-in-law who threatened her child is being dragged away in chains. The systems that were created to exploit her, the blackmail documents, the custody threats, the psychological warfare, are instead becoming evidence against the people who tried to wield them. Catherine is backed into a corner by federal agents, trembling violently, her eyes wide with uncomprehending horror. She's watching her perfect, wealthy, socially acceptable life crumble into absolute ruin right in front of her eyes. She catches Rebecca's gaze through the chain-link fence. For the first time in Rebecca's entire life, her mother isn't looking at her with disdain, disappointment, or arrogant superiority. She's looking at her with pure, unadulterated fear. She finally realizes that the weak daughter she thought she could bully and extort was the one holding the match that just burned her entire world to ash. The aftermath unfolds over the next hour. Federal agents systematically dismantle the criminal enterprise operating inside the gym. They pull black duffel bags from under the VIP booths, physical ledgers, burner phones, encrypted hard drives that detail every illegal transaction flowing through Marcus's business. As they drag the cartel bosses toward the stairwell, one cartel lieutenant, a man in an Italian suit, looks down at the octagon and shouts a vicious death threat at Marcus, promising that Marcus won't survive his first week in federal lockup. Marcus had promised them clean money tonight. He delivered them directly into a federal raid instead. Down on the main floor, Marcus's gym trainers, who tried to intimidate Rebecca in the hallway earlier, are lined up against the concrete wall with their hands behind their heads. The tough guys with cauliflower ears and aggressive tattoos are completely subdued by SWAT rifles. Civilian gym patrons are being separated and funneled toward a processing area. Special Agent Davis, wearing a windbreaker emblazoned with Financial Crimes Division, approaches Veronica, who is still pinned to the announcer's table. He grabs her expensive designer handbag and unceremoniously dumps its contents right in front of her face. Designer cosmetics scatter. Expensive sunglasses fall. Credit cards skate across the tabletop. Then the wooden clipboard. Davis picks it up, examining the fraudulent power of attorney document carefully. "Well, would you look at this?" he says, his voice dripping with professional satisfaction. "We have a signed contract extorting a federal employee out of $200,000. We have attempted kidnapping masked as emergency guardianship. Bag this immediately. This is our physical proof of federal extortion and conspiracy to commit fraud." Veronica stops thrashing. The blood drains from her face. She finally understands. The document she forced Rebecca to sign, thinking she was securing her lavish future, is actually the exact piece of evidence the federal government needed to lock her in a federal prison cell for the next decade. She looks up at Rebecca standing safely inside the cage. Rebecca walks slowly toward her sister. When she reaches the edge of the cage, she looks directly at Veronica and says something that I think about every single time someone asks me about this story. "You really thought blood would protect you. You really thought that being my sister meant I had to let you destroy my child's life. You genuinely believed that. That's what terrifies me most about you." Rebecca's voice isn't angry. It's clinical. It's the voice of someone who has finally stopped being willing to accept the role someone else wrote for her. She continues, "I'm going to do something now that I've been authorized to do. I want you to hear exactly what you are, Veronica, before you spend the next several years in a federal facility thinking about it." Rebecca pulls out her secured phone. She scrolls to an audio file. The wiretap recording. She holds the device out, increases the external speaker volume to maximum. The crystal-clear digital audio file begins to play for everyone in the immediate vicinity to hear. First comes the sound of Marcus's anxious voice. "The cartel auditors are breathing down my neck, Veronica. I am short $200,000 in clean cash. If I don't have it by the grand opening, they're going to kill me." Then comes Veronica's voice. It's not the voice of a terrified, innocent wife. It's cold, calculating, dripping with malicious greed. Just force Hannah to sign over Mark's life insurance. She's completely pathetic since he died. She'll fold if you just yell at her a little bit. The recording continues with Marcus expressing fleeting hesitation. "Are you sure about this? Taking a dead cop's money is a massive risk. What about your niece, Lily?" Then comes Veronica's laugh, sharp, callous, absolutely sickening. "Who cares about Mark? He was a loser who worked night shifts for a garbage salary. Do whatever you have to do to get that check. And honestly, once we burn through that $200,000, we should look into the college fund. We can drain that next." Rebecca pauses the recording. The warehouse is completely silent. Even the federal agents securing the perimeter look at Veronica with absolute unmasked disgust. She had not just been a passive beneficiary of Marcus's crimes. She was an active, enthusiastic co-conspirator. She laughed at David's death. She explicitly plotted to steal Iris's future. She'd already been planning her next financial attack on a 7-year-old child's college fund. "You're not an innocent wife, Veronica," Rebecca says quietly. "You're a greedy, malicious predator who was perfectly willing to destroy your own niece to buy another pair of designer shoes. Two heavily armed FBI agents haul Veronica violently up from the concrete floor. She's screaming, thrashing, denying everything, but it doesn't matter. The evidence is undeniable. They drag her backward toward the main exit, marching her forcefully past the lines of secured cartel members and gym trainers. Her screams echo off the high ceiling, growing fainter as she's shoved into the back of an armored federal vehicle. Rebecca stands in the center of the octagon, watching everything unfold. The physical destruction of the empire that was built on her pain. 3 months later, the aftermath is paint perfect. Marcus sits in maximum security federal lockup, staring down 25 years with no parole. Veronica is living in a rundown motel by the interstate, working graveyard shifts as a minimum wage waitress, scraping together cash to pay off legal debts. Catherine, once the untouchable matriarch of the country club set, is completely bankrupt and socially exiled. Her former friends cross the street to avoid eye contact. Her desperate phone calls to Rebecca go straight to permanent block. But the real story isn't what happened to them. The real story is what happened to Rebecca. She sits on a park bench in quiet Houston, wearing casual civilian clothes, watching Iris chase a rescue dog across the grass. Her daughter's laughter rings out like silver bells. Mark's life insurance policy is locked away in a diversified trust, securely invested to guarantee Iris's college education and her bright, uncompromised future. This story taught me something I want to leave with you. Sharing blood does not give anyone the right to exploit you. For years, Rebecca believed family required endless sacrifice, even when it compromised her safety. True strength isn't about silently enduring abuse to keep fake peace. It's about having the absolute courage to draw a hard line and protect the people who truly matter. You never have to accept a toxic environment just because it comes from your own relatives. I want to ask you 3 questions as I finish this story. Comment down below, tell me which number matches your answer. First question. Do you think Rebecca was right to set up her family for federal prosecution, or should she have tried to protect them despite what they did? Comment 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 if you think it's more complicated than that. Second question. Where are you watching from right now? What time is it where you are? I'm genuinely curious about our audience. Let me know in the comments. Third question. Have you ever experienced something similar to Rebecca's situation? Have you ever had to cut ties with toxic family members to protect yourself or your children? Your stories matter. Share them down below. Thank you so much for watching this. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the relationships you're protecting and the relationships you're willing to end, please hit the subscribe button. I'm creating more stories like this every single week. Stories about people who finally reclaim their power after spending years in someone else's shadow. Subscribe so you don't miss them. This is a fictional story inspired by real emotional experiences, fully rewritten and reimagined in Houston, Texas to create original content. Any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental.